software controls have two benefits. One is operational simplification, and then the next one is automation, which is our fourth sign.
Yes, automation. It is crucial for any enterprise trying to stay ahead of competitors, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to jump into our next poll. The question is, what workflows would you like to automate? And please select all that apply. Zero-touch switch onboarding, zero-touch server-to-leaf switch MLAG configuration, zero-touch trace for troubleshooting, zero-touch network provisioning when VMs or containers are instantiated, or zero-touch software upgrades for up to 128 rack fabrics. And let's take a look at the results. Prashant, what do you think is going to be the top answer?
I'm not going to guess.
All right. 100% of you said zero-touch fabric trace for troubleshooting. Additionally, zero-touch network provisioning when VMs or containers are instantiated. Is that surprising? Makes sense?
It makes a lot of sense because day zero is one time onboarding, but day one and day two are ongoing operations. And if you bring simplification, that's really where the biggest benefit is realized, right? And so troubleshooting, I mean, you know, when application performance issue, latency issue, connectivity issue come up, it's really network is the one that gets finger pointed the first, right? And so network team has to go and say, you know, actually prove that, you know, whether it's a network issue or not. And so 4 out of the 5 times, it's not the network issue. And so, you know, bringing troubleshooting, you know, quickly to show that network is or is not the problem is very important. And certainly, you know, compute and at the end of the day, business wants to deploy more services. So more applications, which means more VMs and containers. And in today's environment, the workloads are very dynamic because the demands are dynamic. And so they need to be elastic. And so the network can't be in the way. And so we need to, so that also makes sense that, you know, network provisioning or essentially automation when VMs and applications are deployed is also an important characteristic. So that's really the focus of this sign. And we'll start with innovations that our cloud friends have done in this area. And here is a very, you know, sort of well-known area that Google has really focused on, which is automation. They have in fact written a book, and this, you know, many people look at site reliability engineering and try to really bring those principles to their on-prem data center. So at the end of the day, you know, outside of black art, we have to mechanize and we have to automate, and that's really the cloud principles that we are going to focus on. A couple of years ago, Google had a talk, and they highlighted that, and they also had a paper in SIGCOMM, and they highlighted the areas where failures occur, network failures occur, and they're primarily due to change management or what they have said to be management operations activities. And so 70% of the failures occur because of that. And if you see kind of in the second chart, what are the management operations? They're upgrades, rollouts, configuration changes, right? And so how do we make this much, much simpler? And so, so we talked about the level of complexities earlier in terms of operational complexities and management complexities, installation complexities. Now let's look at app provisioning. And this is where I believe network automation really provides tremendous benefits, and specifically speed. Taking the network out of the way is really dependent on how well the network is automated. So again, 2 ways to automate the network. One way is for each of the networking device to connect through APIs into an SDDC orchestrator or private cloud orchestrator. What's an example of private cloud orchestrator? vSphere, NSX from VMware, Nutanix, Enterprise Cloud, OpenStack, Kubernetes in the container world, for example. And This is certainly one approach. There is a clear, obvious challenge with this approach, and that is that every box, every switch has to have a programmable NOS, which is not, I mean, that if one wants to look at, sort of programmability on a switch NOS or a network NOS, well, that's an incremental innovation, and that has occurred, and that's a very important aspect of automation. So, but when every device is connecting programmatically to an orchestrator, you have hundreds of devices in a data center pod, probably 1,000 in a data center, and when they're talking to an orchestrator, it means you have lots of API calls going to the orchestrator, which means orchestrator scalability for API becomes important. Resolving APIs and race conditions of APIs become important, and hence there can be issues. There is another approach, which is really cloud-inspired approach, where you actually connect the orchestrator to an externalized fabric controller, and fabric controller then does all of the provisioning of the fabric itself. And this way, there's only one API integration, programmatic integration, northbound controller APIs talking to the orchestrator APIs. And this becomes a very scalable, predictable, responsive way to do network automation. And this is the cloud principle that Big Switch has adopted as part of Big Cloud Fabric, which is a data center switching fabric. And the controller, which is both a policy, operations, and management controller, as well as a network controller, integrates with a variety of orchestrators. And it makes the network, from an orchestration perspective, a one logical switch. And therefore, the complexity of this environment is never more than one switch from an operator perspective. From an orchestrator perspective, it is also thinks of it as it's talking to one switch, because it is always talking to a controller as a single API interaction. And this provides tremendous automation benefits. So, for example, when servers are added, a server team or compute team adds new servers in a rack, network team does not have to get involved. The MLAG is automatically configured by the controller on the leaf switch. So when you have a hyper-converged team, or your virtualization team, or your container team, they can keep adding servers, and the network will automatically configure itself. Fabric will automatically form, and there is really no network team involvement, which means that the network is now operating at the speed of the VM and the containers, and the network team does not have to do the menial task of setting up VLANs and setting up ports and interfaces and VRFs and so on, and keep checking across multiple boxes. So all of this, low value, sort of day-to-day work can be offloaded to the controller, which can automate these important workflows, day one and day two workflows. Another important thing is when VMs are added to the network, why should one have to configure L2 and L3 policies on different switches? Why can't the controller take care of that? And that's exactly what happens when integration is enabled, when a VM is instantiated on ESX or on OpenStack, or in a containerized environment, or in Nutanix hyperconverge. The L2 network and L3 policies can be immediately configured across the fabric, and the policies would follow the fabric. So, and you get complete visibility. So trust automation, but also verify automation is a key principle that is available. And like the survey we did, Kate, earlier, we've also done surveys with our customers, and 52 of them have said that they've experienced significant improvement or speed in their environment. Better than half, nearly 2/3 have said they see 50 to 75% improvement, and over 1/3 have said that they see 75% to 100% improvement. So very amazing speed. There is a customer quote on the slide that says decreased TCO by 90% because of automation. And this is the enabler for the business, right? So this is how network team are able to bring innovation, leveraging cloud principles on-prem, and be at the innovations table with compute and storage team, and participate in bringing speed, agility, simplification, lower cost to modern data centers.